Hi, fools. I'm Lou Whiteman, and today I'm joined by Ryan Carrithers, Chief Financial Officer of Merlin Labs. Merlin, ticker MRLN, is an aerospace company focused on autonomy that went public this month via a SPAC deal with Inflection Point Acquisition Corp. Ryan, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Lou.
So, first off, I wanted to start out by kind of having you introduce us to Merlin Labs. This is a hot area right now, but I don't know if there's a lot of companies getting attention. But let's talk about what Merlin Labs is up to. What's the origin story? What are you doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So Merlin Labs, we are, the most simplistic way, we are building a pilot, just not a human one. And so what essentially we are building is an AI, a deterministic AI software that will sit on top of a flight management system in a plane. So we have a partnership with GE Aerospace, and they have a large amount, I think over 14,000 planes. They've installed their flight management system. And so when you think about it from that perspective, the flight management system is kind of like the brain and the spine of the spinal cord of the plane. And we essentially are the cortex that sits on top of that and helps the plane understand, from a deterministic standpoint, understand what it needs to do in a certain mission. And so the flight management system will say, we need to go from point A to point B. Our AI software would sit on top of it and say, okay, based on weather patterns or safety profile or winds, here's exactly what you should go and do. And so essentially that everything that a co-pilot would do is what we're building into our software.
So how, and maybe this varies by airplane, but how plug and play is this? I'm guessing, and please tell me I'm wrong because this would be so much cooler, but you're not literally building a robot pilot, as fun as that would be. But is this literally like plug and play, like you can just go into a system, or do you need to sort of recreate the pushing of throttle? Like how much of this is a hardware question and how much of it is a software, or both?
Yeah, so it's not plug and play from the sense of we are going to go and develop this once and it can just be, again, plugged into any type of aircraft. But it is plug and play from the sense of we will go and develop it for an aircraft. And for example, we have a large nine-figure contract with US SOCOM to develop this on the C-130J plane. And once you kind of develop that, you can take that and really then adapt it to any plane that currently exists. And so, as you can imagine, every plane has some different configurations or a different flight management system. And so there is an adaptation phase that would occur to go on to another plane, but it is not starting over from zero every time. And actually, every time we implement it or adapt it onto a new plane, it is just that much easier to then further adapt it onto additional planes. So there is some adaptation, some additional engineering required to adapt it to a new plane, but it's not starting over from zero.
Gotcha. I like, especially with IPOs or kind of, companies that aren't on the radar, like kind of ask the big picture question, the kind of what problem you're trying to solve. I mean, autonomous at a high level is it, but I mean, where are we going with this? Is this replacing the pilot? Is this assisting the pilot? Is it like kind of you use co-pilot? Is it like trying to reduce the man hours, or kind of what is the big picture problem you're solving, where you're going with this?
Yeah, so it is for all intents and purposes it is complementing the current pilot infrastructure. And so the way we kind of see the market and what we're focused on is, again, we have the military being our largest customer at the moment. There's a big desire to have this technology from the military, and essentially being able to go into a plane and go from two crew to one crew, and eventually one crew to zero crew in certain missions. And as you can imagine, and as we're seeing this day and age, there are certain missions where you won't want a pilot on a certain plane. And so there's a lot of interest from the government and the military in this technology. There's well documented pilot shortages, across the board, whether it's in government or commercial or civilian. And so we kind of see it as more of a complement to the existing pilots and allowing them more uptime on the planes. And government being a big market, but then from there it's really the commercial freight market is another large market where your UPSs, DHL, FedEx, those companies typically employ anywhere from 10 to 16 pilots per plane. And so if you're able to reduce from two crew to one crew, you're really able to give them a large cost advantage in being able to employ less pilots. But with pilot shortages, we actually view it as the current pilots they have would have more uptime on the planes. They'd be more well rested. They'd have a better ability to fly the current planes. And then long down the road would be your kind of commercial civil market, which is going into a Boeing or Airbus plane and your Delta American type flights. So that is the largest market, but that is the furthest thing we're focused on at the moment. We think that you could build a tremendous company just focused on even just military and the commercial freight market. And then there's several niche markets in between there of, there's maritime surveillance, there's interesting companies doing firefighting surveillance over forest fires in California. So there's a lot of other interesting niche markets too that we see this technology being really, really interesting.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. No, you can see the long arc and sort of the short arc where, going from assist to taking over. But yeah, I would think that especially on the commercial side, it's probably that is a very long arc. But yeah, there's a lot that can be done in the meantime.
Yeah.
What's it kind of just, one more big picture, either the most important thing about the company or the opportunity that just me from the outside or, people outside of your walls maybe doesn't understand or should understand about it. I mean, it's kind of sci-fi stuff, but look, I mean, I'm in Atlanta. I see Waymos all the time. It's sci-fi is becoming reality. So yeah. I don't know if I'm wowed by this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I mean, Waymo's really interesting, obviously, but from aviation, when you think about aviation and development and what's happened in that space over the last 100 years. We've had autopilot on planes around for the last 50 years, but there hasn't been really great technological kind of advancements there. And we think that the market's increasingly recognizing autonomy, AI, and really mission software as kind of the future of defense and aviation. And you have a lot of different companies that are kind of taking different approaches to that. A lot of companies that are essentially building their own hardware and then building their software into that hardware specifically. So it can be adapted to their own vehicles, but not basically across any vehicle that currently exists or any plane that currently exists. And so that's kind of the approach we're taking in the bigger picture of, we are really focused on a agnostic software that can be applied to really any aircraft that currently exists, and then obviously looking forward to partnering with manufacturers in the future and hoping to build this into future aircrafts that are being built in the future.
Yeah, I definitely want to kind of, you touched on competition. I want to get into that in a second,
Sure.
but I want to dig down first. You mentioned the Air Force deal, I think for the C-130, so the Hercules, the big cargo, 5 years, 105 million, right? Is
Correct.
that, I think what I saw. Let's dig down there. What exactly are you delivering for them and kind of how it's going? Because this is, I mean, it wasn't too long ago you announced it, but
Yeah.
it's always a great feeling to go from the PowerPoint pitch to actually a signed contract and actually have the revenue come in and actually start implementing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the really interesting things about that contract as well is our competition in that, and we're the prime on that contract, and our competition was Lockheed Martin in that contract. And so Lockheed Martin manufactures the C-130J plane, and so to win that award as the prime over Lockheed Martin was a really a boost of credibility for Merlin and our company. And so what we are delivering for them is really kind of that adaptation phase of implementing and adapting the Merlin pilot into a C-130J vehicle. And testing it and showing them the capability of it. And so that is, we think that hopefully we'll be able to achieve that in less than 5 years. The contract's written for 5 years in total, but we're making really, really good progress on that. We just announced that we've completed a preliminary design review with them, which was a big milestone, and we'll be, hopefully announcing some further milestones coming out here in 2026 in the near future.
And just to be clear, to what goal is this again? To eliminate a co-pilot, to just assist the pilots,
Yep.
or is that kind of open-ended? You're demonstrating to see what it does?
A little bit open-ended, but yeah, right now the goal is to show that we have the capability of being able to fly the plane autonomously with a reduced crew, and then yes, in the future the possibility of flying it autonomously with zero crew.
Mhm. It's interesting, and it's interesting in competing with Lockheed Martin, and we'll get into competition, but so much, just like every other industry, we talk about this a lot on the defense side, that the digitalization, that no longer is it just the value comes from the ability to build the plane, but the margin comes from the people who can make it smart or the
Right.
electronics behind it. And, that is the opportunity from here. It feels like responding to that, if I went out and just threw a rock and hit a defense contractor and, about autonomy, I would say, the hand would go up. You were
Right.
competing with Lockheed there. I mean,
Yep.
I know like some specialists, Anduril, Shield AI, some of those, but General Atomics, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, kind of, the generic question is, and maybe, you can use the Air Force's answer on this contract or just more generally, what makes Merlin stand out? Why do you need to exist in a world where all of these airplane manufacturers are trying to build this native for themselves?
Yeah, well, we feel that again, what we're building can be applied across essentially any vehicle that exists, and so a majority of our competition, or really all the competition, is building a specific application for their specific hardware that they go and manufacture, and so we think it's really important to have something that again can be adapted into any vehicle, with some additional engineering work as we discussed. And so, we want to kind of sit at the intersection of certifiable flight autonomy, aviation software, and defense modernization. And we think that the Merlin pilot, provides the ability to do that by being able to be applied to really any platform that currently exists.
It's the idea too that maybe the customer, from the, I mean, from the manufacturer's perspective, they would obviously like to use their stuff, but from the customer perspective, some sort of uniformity around different platforms over time could be the winning solution. I mean, I don't know. The Pentagon hasn't really been into of late just picking one vendor for everything, but kind of appealing to the customer over the manufacturer. Is that kind of hopefully here what what you're going for? Or is that oversight?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that could, I think you're right, and that could be, that could be the potential for the future of having, more one, we want to be kind of the operating system of planes going forward, and I think that's right, and I think it makes a lot of sense to not have 10 different companies producing their own operating system on planes, and you could have one or two maybe, but hopefully one with Merlin operating system across the fleets.
Yeah, so I mentioned Shield and Anduril and some others. You're mostly talking about pilot support or pilot replacement over time. UAVs are so big. Are you dabbling there? Do you want to dabble there? Do you see long term there, or is that a separate market? Is it deliberate that you're kind of focused on pilot replacement?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a separate market, and so currently I'd say there's really no perfect one-to-one public comp, at least that exists for Merlin today. We are, as I mentioned, we kind of sit in this intersection of certifiable flight autonomy, aviation software, and defense modernization. And so there's a lot of companies doing different parts of that, and so there's no perfect comp. But when it comes to the UAVs, it is a little bit separate market that we're not exactly focused on currently at the moment.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, so you're the CFO, so we definitely have to talk numbers, right?
Yeah.
Just correct me if I'm wrong because I was looking at the filings, but they're always updated. So, but about 8.5 million in revenue in 25, expected to grow to 32
Yep.
in this year. That's the C-130 deal, I would assume, right?
Correct. Yep.
60 million in cash burn in both. This is an R&D story. You're getting at least a couple hundred million net, if not more, from this IPO. How are we doing in terms of like where are we in the ramp? How long of a ramp? Like kind of it seems like at least look even just simple math, 60 million a year, taking in a couple hundred million. You're not in worrisome shape, but obviously, what is the growth path from here? This isn't you don't want status quo numbers, obviously.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, so we're taking the capital that we're raising from going public and really, utilizing it to expedite our product development roadmap and to really invest in that, in 2026 here to put ourselves in the best position to go and win larger customer contracts throughout the year. And so we think there's a lot of opportunity. We're bidding on awards under the Golden Dome contract right now. We're one of the suppliers under that. I think there's a lot of opportunity, or there is a lot of opportunity we're seeing in the government sector. And then of course we're bringing the non-government customers along, keeping them apprised of what we're working on, how we're developing our product, to again put ourselves in the best position to go and win some of those larger contracts. And so we're taking our capital and really efficiently deploying it and hiring some talent on the engineering side, the product development side, focus on certification deployment, and then some public company infrastructure. And so to your point, our business is not capital expenditure intensive. It's capital intensive with people. And so we are hiring the right people and to put them in place to, again, develop our product and get it into a place where we can go and win large customer contracts this year.
So Merlin's been around for a while, I think, right? I mean, you've been working on this for a while.
Yep.
Why now? As far as the public market, I mean, it's a great time for defense tech, but look, it's been a great few years. So, I mean, I'm not going to accuse you of just being opportunistic because
Sure.
if you were, you would have done this already. But why does this make sense now? Is it the contracts in? Is it just you need the more capital, or all of the above, or?
Yeah, a little bit above. So, I mean, I think at the moment, to your point, A&D is a really interesting market in how it's developing in that sector. And yeah, I think the market is increasingly recognizing that autonomy, AI, and mission software can really be the core of kind of future defense and aviation. And we just reached an inflection point where our technology and customer traction and our program milestones kind of supported, scaling up as a public company and going and raising this capital to accelerate execution on the Merlin pilot. And so we felt that, it was kind of the right time to go and do this. And we're really, really, happy and I'd say lucky to partner with Inflection Point, who I just think has been, one of, if not one of the best SPAC sponsors out there, most successful SPAC sponsors out there with US Rare Earth and Intuitive Machines. So they've been a really, really great partner, and so happy to partner with them on growing the company.
Yeah. So the great thing about this point in the life cycle is that the opportunity is everything, right? The downside is you do have to focus, and you're kind of doing that with defense. But I'm just curious, it seems like right now, to get started, the focus is sort of retrofit on defense.
Yeah.
I'm curious for just color, going out, I don't know how many years, how that will evolve, or if you look out years from now, how much of it is you think will be retrofit versus how much of it is just involved, how much of it's defense versus kind of cargo. How do you see, and please speculate here, but,
Sure.
But how do you see the market evolving kind of, I don't know, couple years out and then further out? What is the timeline and how does this market move?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and timeline. I won't sign up to specific timelines probably here, but the good thing about
Smart.
us being able to kind of retrofit this onto any existing platform is we know the platforms out there. We know what planes exist, and you kind of know the customers that own those planes as well, and so we're able to kind of look across the landscape and understand from an adaptation and then an integration standpoint and a financial standpoint for us of what makes the most sense to go after next in order to continue to scale. We don't have to wait around for someone to say, hey, I've got, two planes that do crop dusting in Texas, and not necessarily saying we won't focus on those customers, but we know where there's, 100 to 200 to, 400 fleets of planes where we can go after those customers and show them what we've done on the current platforms and why this makes sense for them to adapt into their fleet of vehicles. So, I think it expands. It'll be interesting. I think that the government will continue to be a really strong and good partner and customer for us. And I see that growing throughout, 26, 27 and really into the future. But also us, working with some of the kind of the commercial customers, and as I mentioned, the maritime customers, the commercial freight customers, probably later half of 26 into 27 in the future. So I see that revenue, becoming more evenly split over the, let's say midterm, next several years. But exact timing on how we'll split will a little bit to be determined. But we'll definitely have a more balanced portfolio as we kind of move forward here with development.
So these days, everything is an AI play, but I think you have pretty good cred here. I mean, it's literally artificial intelligence to have machines pilot a plane or work with it. But I'm always curious, where is the technology today? Where is it heading? I mean, I know you're a numbers guy, so am I, so we don't have to go too deep into the tech stack. But I can't help but note, and you're focused on cargo and not say the F-35 that's going to be, in a dogfight moving around. It feels like just the tech burden on a cargo plane is different than sort of the more nimble fighter. So it makes sense to evolve that way. But I'm kind of curious, like, where is the tech? Where is it heading? Obviously, if you have this in the air on the C-130, the tech is pretty far along, but kind of where are, like, how far does the tech need to go with all this hiring you're doing? And kind of where are you, like, what inning, I guess, is the
Yeah.
obvious thing, like as far as where is the tech today and where does it need to go?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say our tech today is, definitely towards the later stage innings. I won't speculate or guess what inning we're in here, but our tech is pretty far advanced. I mean, we are currently flying it on planes today. So we have hundreds of hours of flights on several different vehicles of actual flight data that we are continuously doing really on a daily basis. So this is not something we're doing in a simulator. It's something we're actually going out and actively flying currently and getting test data at the moment. And so we're definitely in the later innings of the game here. And where I kind of see it evolving, we kind of when you mentioned the F-35 fighter to the cargo planes, we want to go after both of those markets. So we think both of those markets are very interesting and that we can do them in parallel. So that is part of what we're building up as a team. We again the adaptation phase to take it from a C-130 to a cargo plane to an F-35. We will have an internal team that is adapting it, and then we will partner with experts on aircrafts for the integration phase of that into the fleets of whatever vehicles. And so we're really far along, and where I kind of see it developing as well, if you can imagine, is there is possibilities for more of kind of a platform type solution across the plane where you have the Merlin pilot integrated with other aspects of the plane to where you kind of have more of a holistic platform where the plane is talking to each other in a deterministic way. Again, depending on what the customer and flight profile looks like, that can mean a lot of different things. But we do see there, more platform solution in the future here as well.
Yeah, yeah, and this might come off as more of a comment than a question, but I'm
Sure.
still kind of would love to get your. In a way, we are so very early here,
Mhm.
and in a way, though, it does seem like things are moving so fast.
Yeah.
There's well, just to name one public company, Kratos Defense and Security, what
Yeah.
they're doing with the Valkyrie, the Loyal Wingman, where yeah, it's coordinating with the F-35 in theory.
Right.
So like in a way, we're so early days, and in a way that Beachhead is already being, or taken, or they're trying to take it, in terms of the total market opportunity. Everyone's jumping at it. It's just a very interesting time for this, where it's both very early and it can feel too late, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if there's a question there or not, but I'd love for you to talk about it.
Yeah, sure. No, yeah, one of the interesting things to me and what drew me to Merlin as well. So I, spent the last 6 years of my career in SPAC companies. I was at Astrospace prior to this, and then at Ginkgo Bioworks. So, really cool frontier tech companies doing interesting things and developing new markets. But also, when I think about both those companies, and not that it's a parallel to Merlin, but just in terms of the technology, it is, we were developing the technology and also trying to sometimes solve problems that hadn't been solved before. And so what I really like about Merlin is there's nothing that hasn't been solved before what we're trying to do. We don't need to go and build a small nuclear reactor that's never been built to go power the AI software to power this. It is really making sure that we're hiring the right people and focused on meeting our milestones in 2026 on our product development roadmap. But again, as I said, autopilots existed for the last 50 years, and all that we're doing is really taking everything that's in let's say a co-pilot's brain and building it into a deterministic software. And so again, nothing that hasn't been necessarily done from the aspect of a plane. And so I think that's what's really exciting and why it maybe feels that it's really early, but kind of late at the same time.
So you've sort of answered this when talking about kind of the comparison to the primes, but it's still, I think it's a neat question to try and get into what Merlin's doing. So like, if a big established company, $1 trillion competitor, whoever, if they wanted to copy Merlin instead of just use it, why would they fail?
Um, Good question. Yeah. I think that, I liken this a little bit to what happened in the space sector a little bit as well, where you had this situation where a lot of government contracts were going to a certain subset of customers, and it could have been very easily said of like, well, why wouldn't they go develop satellites, or why wouldn't they go develop what SpaceX is doing, and why did those companies fail? That I think a lot of times that there's not as much quick movement in those companies on some developing technologies. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. There's some bureaucracy there, and I don't necessarily know that they would fail, but I think it would be a pivot away from some of the stuff that they're working on now. And I just think that the government as well has kind of shown, especially with the C-130 contract, that they are interested in some of the new developing technologies in the market, and helping some of these companies and helping the development, because there's just a lot of interesting stuff going on out there. What Anduril is doing is interesting. We think what we're doing is really interesting, and we just think that not necessarily that the big primes would fail, but there's a lot of room in the market for more players to come in and kind of again develop these exciting technologies that will really enhance people's lives. And so that's what we're really excited about. And I don't know if the primes would fail, but I think that there's a lot of market there, that and a lot of room for improvement. And I just think that sometimes they're a little bit slower to react to some of the newer developing technologies.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, I know CFOs, public companies, it's always terrible with forward looking, but I'm going to do it. You can answer how you want, and not specific to Merlin Labs,
Sure.
but like defense tech has gotten a lot of attention of late.
Yep.
And it's funny, like it's fun for me, but just a lot of people are learning a lot really quickly and are focused on it. Still, we're outsiders looking in. I kind of said before, but like, what's the most exciting inflection point on the horizon, or what doesn't the market see coming that has you really excited in your business and just defense tech in general?
Yeah, I think maybe I'll answer that in defense tech in general, which is I think it's really exciting to, again, look at all these companies across the board, these smaller startup companies that are doing really interesting things. And I believe that, over time, there will be a scenario where you probably don't just have the five major primes that you have now. You may have, the maybe major primes, and then a slew of, let's say, subprimes, or you have kind of a situation where you have maybe 10 or 12 different prime companies that are all doing really really exciting stuff. I think the ability to bring complementary technology together is going to be really exciting as you kind of look across the portfolio of what a lot of these smaller startup companies in the space are doing. I think there's a lot of areas where technologies will complement each other in a really exciting way that hasn't fully been contemplated, or let's say engineered or done by the primes that are out there. And again, you're seeing that already a little bit, but I think it will just get more exciting with some of the interesting and cool technologies that are currently out there, as this kind of evolves and develops over the next several years here.
Gotcha. Okay. So look, if everything goes right, everything breaks right, we're back talking here, I don't know, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, you pick the time. But what does Merlin Labs look like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, or whatever, assuming everything goes to script, which we all know it always does, right?
Yeah, of course, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we look like we are the prime operating system on the largest amount of aircraft in the world. I would say that we are, we have a refined product, and we are really working on taking that product and adapting it to new types of vehicles, and integrating it across large fleets of platforms. And I think that will be a really, really exciting company in the future for people to invest in. And I think that it is really, an achievable thing. And so I'm really excited to be a part of that, and to watch the company grow, and again, help take the capital we deployed and deploy it efficiently to help it evolve.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, as someone who's watched this industry for a long time, kind of to the point you made, there has never been a better time for, probably going back to the beginning of the Cold War, for just young companies to kind of step into the Pentagon. There's never been an openness for it. Downside is yes, that has created a lot of competition, and there are a lot of people who have recognized that opportunity. But, you know, if a foot in the door, it's really fascinating to see kind of what's happening now.
Yeah, absolutely.
A neat time. All right, Ryan, thank you so much. The company is Merlin Labs, again, ticker MRLN. Really, really interesting to watch this play out. Yeah, it feels like definitely something's happening here. I think there's probably a lot of winners, but you know, doing a lot of different things. But yeah, to have that contract, to see where it goes from here, very, very exciting to watch this play out.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate the time, Lou, and yeah, look forward to being back here soon to update you on all the exciting stuff we have going on.
Very good, very good. Thanks,
Thanks, Lou.
Ryan.
Appreciate it.